love your background.
Thank you, thank you.
You're
You
sick.
can thank my mother for this. This was her idea.
Oh, damn. All right. Shout out to mom.
Hi, Amar. My name is Thomas Alanitas from OneTakeNews. How are you doing today?
Hey, Thomas. I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing great. Look, before we start, I saw this movie for the first time almost a year ago, and I rewatched it again this morning. I still love it as much as I did. Thank you so much for making this movie, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I'm really, really excited to talk about this, especially as someone from Toronto. I'm really excited.
Thanks, man. I love your background.
Thank you, thank you.
You're
You can
sick.
thank my mother for this. This was her idea.
Oh, damn. All right. Shout out to mom.
Yeah, for real, she's the real one. First question I gotta ask, like I said, this was at TIFF last year. Congrats again on that. And now you're releasing it to the world. I'm curious, what's that the last year been like for you from screening it for the first time to now screening it again a couple weeks ago, and now it's releasing in about 2 weeks. What's that been like for you?
It's been cool. I mean, like seeing the process from this side for the first time has been interesting. Like the life cycle of a movie is so long, right? Like as an audience member, you like see the trailer, then it's out in theaters, and you're like, okay, great. And like it's been years in the making for the filmmakers themselves. And even like the journey from going from festivals into the actual wide release has been a new one for me. At times it's been like, I can't wait to get the movie out there. But after TIFF, we played other film festivals, we played festivals internationally. And we really wanted it to be a summer movie. Like it's a summer movie. It's got a summer vibe to it, right? So I really wanted
Around
to
the
release
summer.
it. Yeah, and Elevation, has been really supportive of that, and they wanted to release it in the summer too. So it's been a difficult wait, but I'm really, really excited to finally share it. And the other thing that happened is after the movie, I also became a dad. So
Oh,
that's
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So that, but there's no better way to distract yourself than to become a parent for the first time. It's like way harder than making a movie. And so it's like the movie's like a break for me, compared to like what my life has been like for the last year. So I'm really excited. I'm really like honored and like excited and like grateful for this chance.
For sure, for sure. And I want to talk about something interesting you mentioned, the lifespan of a movie. You originally also shot this as a short, I believe, about 7 years ago now. If my
Mhm.
math is correct, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm really curious, when was the moment you decided you wanted to make this into a full feature film? Could you tell me when that clicked for you?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to make a feature. And I wanted to touch on sort of like this period in my life. So, for your audience, like the film is about a guy whose dad is kind of diagnosed with Parkinson's disease after his parents' marriage, and that's kind of exactly what happened with my family, right? Like my parents' marriage ended while I was already an adult trying to figure out my own life. And so, you're in that phase of life where you're trying to figure out your next steps after school. Like, how do you kind of like build your life as an adult? What does that even look like if you're trying to be an artist? And then this big thing happened that kind of like, pulled a lot of my attention in a way that I think like I'm really kind of like happy about now because my family has come back together in a very different way than I thought. You know what I mean? Like it's just like sometimes bad things happen, but then they settle in a way that's different than you thought, but still something that's really beautiful, which is kind of like a line Claire says in the movie. But I always knew I wanted to touch on this sort of period of life because I felt like other people have all been through it, right? Like everyone goes through that moment where you're kind of done school and like you're trying to figure out your next steps and you fall in love for the first time or you meet somebody and they're not, you're not sure if it's going to work out. The part that made it specific for me was the part about the Parkinson's, right? And so I knew that was enough of an engine to kind of make a movie around. So I kind of did what like a lot of other filmmakers I really admire have done is I kind of made the short first, which I knew would be a scene kind of from the larger feature film. So it's like a strategy that like Damien Chazelle did with Whiplash, for example, right? Like he
Yes.
made the short first. So I kind of built a short film around that's the pivotal scene with the father and son at the restaurant. I wanted to do kind of like a really cool conversation at a table, kind of like Michael Mann in Heat, you know what I mean? Like the De Niro Pacino conversation. Because there's something to me so pure and so wonderful about a film that's literally two people at a table and it's really just about performance. I got to do that with the short, and then I used the short really to prove to people that I was ready to make a feature film, right? Because like my
Mm.
work prior to that had been mostly in documentary. And what happens in this industry is like people kind of pigeonhole you, or they try to pigeonhole you as just one kind of filmmaker. And that's really antithetical to what we are as artists. Artists want to try all kinds of different things. And so I was like, I need something that's going to prove to people that I can do this. And so the short kind of did that for me. There weren't really any questions about whether I could do it by the time I came around to kind of shopping the feature around, so to speak.
For sure, for sure. And if people still have questions now, then that's their problem because again, you killed it with this.
Thank you.
Like you said, this the idea of Parkinson's, it was very much the engine of this movie. And as someone who's dealt with it in my own family, I know what that's like. I'm really curious for you when you were shooting this, even going back to the short and now, has it been almost a cathartic experience to kind of relive this in a different way and to go through this all over again?
Honestly, no. I think the reason I was able to write it and make the movie is because I had already kind of dealt with all of that stuff by the time I sat down to write it. Like a lot of the friction in the movie between the characters is fictional. Like a lot of that stuff was not really the way I
Mhm.
felt with my family. Like I wasn't estranged from my dad or anything like that, right? So
Yeah,
it really is a dramatization, and that's why we don't say the film is based on a true story or anything like that in the movie, although it is obviously very personal. But yeah, I feel like I was at peace with kind of where my family was and my relationship with everything by the time I sat down to write it. And then once the actors come in and everything like that, honestly, it just becomes a movie. Like they really make the movie their own. They make the characters their own. I keep saying that the movie is way funnier than I thought it would be, and that's because of the performances from the actors. You know what I mean?
it
Like,
really is.
yeah. And so it really kind of became a movie, and I treated it like a movie pretty much right from the get-go. And I feel good about it now. Like honestly, I feel good about it as a movie. Like I don't see it as sort of like a wrapping up of this thing my family went through because obviously we're still dealing with it. My dad obviously still has Parkinson's and is still with us, which is great. But it's an ongoing thing, right? It wasn't like a closing of a chapter or anything like that.
For sure, for sure. I want to talk a lot about Toronto. I'm from Toronto. I love the city, and this movie is so true blue Toronto, and that's most noticeable for me when Ash misses the last CTC train. I've done that to myself so many times. But that's just one of the many moments in this movie that's so big, Toronto, very Canadian. I'm really curious for the Toronto audience, what is like the thing like that, like the little Easter egg that only Torontonians will understand that you are most excited for them to see?
I mean, that's definitely one of them. I mean, I think everyone knows the pain of missing that last train, right?
Yes.
And what you got to do to get home.
Not
Um,
even the last train, just when it's delayed for like 10, 15 minutes after, and it's like
oh
just
yeah,
the most
yeah.
excruciating wait.
Yeah, because at that point of the night, you're just like desperate for your bed, right?
Hmm.
So I think that one's there. I think there'll also be like a lot of like the distinctness of like the bars and the restaurants and things like that. I feel like we've seen so many of these places in TV and in movies, but they always shoot them in a way that doesn't look like Toronto. You know what I mean? Because Toronto is often pretending to be another city in most
Yeah.
productions. And so I'm excited for people to just be like, yo, I go to that coffee shop, or like, oh, I went on a date at that bar and stuff like that. And I want people to know, I kind of want people to like see their neighborhoods in a slightly different way, right? In a way that's really cinematic. I think the movie looks really beautiful, but I think we really wanted to shoot
Does.
it in a way that honors what it really is. We weren't trying to make it look different than it is, just kind of like show you the true beauty that exists in downtown Toronto and in Scarborough. And I
Mhm.
hope people most connect with that. I hope they just feel like this took place in a space that they walk around in every day, right?
For sure, for sure. And to follow up on that, were there any locations you had in mind when you were writing this that you got to use in the movie?
Yeah, a lot of them. So a lot of the locations you see, like a lot of the cool there's a beautiful date scene in a bar called Communist Daughter. That's one of my favorite bars in Toronto on Dundas West. And like that was written into the script. Like I wanted that bar for that scene, and we were
Hmm.
able to get it, which was really cool. A lot of the Scarborough locations are like exactly what we'd written, right? Like they were like exactly where we wanted to be. So most of what we wanted to do was really shot in the places that we'd imagined when we were writing. So that was really, really cool. It was harder than we thought, just in the sense that like when you have, we're definitely not like a low budget Canadian movie, but we're not a high budget movie. And
Hmm.
shooting in locations, one of the things that happens is like the Americans have kind of like set the tone for what things will cost in Toronto because they shoot so much here, right? And so everyone expects you to have these like American level budgets where they're like, yeah, you can shut down the restaurant. I want 25 grand. And we're like, we're a Canadian movie, dude. Like it's a totally different world, right? So, so it was stuff like that. But our locations team was wonderful. Our production design team was wonderful, and I think it accomplished what we were trying to do, which is like really just make the movie feel really familiar, right?
Does. It does. Is there a location you wanted to use that you didn't get to for whatever reason? Maybe it just didn't fit in the story, or you just couldn't get it?
There were a couple of restaurants and things like that I wanted to get that we couldn't get, but to be honest with you, the hardest location to get was the family's apartment, right? Because I wanted like,
Really?
yeah, Ash's family apartment. Like I wanted like a very specific look. So like in the suburbs, a lot of the older apartment buildings that were built back in the day have a very specific look to them. You know what I mean? They don't
Mhm.
look like condos do now. And so
Yes.
we wanted that very specific look. But because most productions don't shoot in Scarborough, right? A lot of stuff is downtown. The locations teams and things like that have to build new relationships with like building management and all of that stuff. And so we
Mhm.
really had trouble finding like Ash's mom's apartment. And in the end, believe it or not, it was my mom who like reached out to a bunch of friends and was like, sent me a video and was like, hey, this is my friend's place. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly the look we wanted, right? And it has a balcony that looks out over downtown and all of that stuff. So we didn't write any of that. That was just like the beauty of the location.
Mhm.
That shot of Ash kind of on the balcony looking towards the skyline, like that was just there for us. We didn't write that. So it was like shout out to my mom because like we almost had to like do that in on a set or something like that because like the downtown condo look just which is like easy to get for most locations managers that would not have worked for this kind of movie,
Mhm.
right? So
That's amazing. Shout out to your mom. And you know what? That kind of just goes to show like some of the best things are just not planned the way you want them to happen. Like you just got this because your mom asked people. Like it's probably not what you thought was going to happen when you were writing this. So it's kind of perfect that it came that way. It's a nice little full circle moment. I like that.
no, absolutely. I mean, no matter how big you get, your mom's always going to help you. So
Oh, for sure. For sure. I want to talk a little bit about the inspiration of this movie. I really like something you said. You talked about how Good Will Hunting was the inspiration for this movie and how you depict Toronto, kind of like how they depict Boston. But I'm really curious, could you tell me some of the other movies that inspired Shook? Because I really like Good Will Hunting as a start. That was actually something I thought of when I watched the movie for the first
oh
time.
no way, that's so
Yes.
cool. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think Good Will Hunting's a movie I've seen like 500 times. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things
Mhm.
where when I was younger, it was just on TV all the time, and if it's on
Mhm.
TV, I couldn't click away. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we realized we were kind of like making like our own funny, goofy version of like a Brown Good Will Hunting, and I don't mean like because Ash is like a math genius or anything like that. We didn't set out to make it that way, but there were like a lot of parallel elements. Like in Good Will Hunting, he meets a girl who's like going away to school. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that was like a parallel, and then obviously the math genius thing is different, but like the way they talked about Southie and South Boston versus like the glitz and glamour of Harvard and sort of like the manicured world that Matt Damon's character is entering, that felt very similar to what Ash is going through, right? Um, and then there's like a scene where there's like a big fight and like his buddies have to break it up and all that kind of stuff. So there
Yeah.
were weirdly these like similar elements, and I realized it kind of makes sense because like when those guys wrote that movie, they were just writing about Boston and their experience in Boston and kind of like writing something
Mhm.
that was very personal to them, set in the place where a place that they knew so well. So I think that's really what the similar element was, which was like to make it as specific to our own neighborhoods and our own communities as possible, which would make that the specificity is what translates it and makes it universal. But other movies were like, we were really inspired by like filmmakers who were doing something that was just kind of like a great, beautiful movie, but had some sort of cultural specificity to it that made it special. Like, so like The Farewell was like a big reference for us. Things like that where it's set in the West, but you're kind of, and it's a filmmaker of color who comes from an immigrant family, and the specificity of some cultural nuance is what makes the thing unique and special, right? That's the kind of thing that we wanted to focus on. And I think that that's harder than you might think it is. If a movie with a bunch of people of color from an immigrant family in it doesn't actually talk about immigration or doesn't talk about race and stuff like that, it's actually
Mhm.
harder for the industry to get behind it because they don't really know what to do with that kind of movie because it's much more rare than you think, right?
Yeah.
So it was tricky, but it felt like the right approach. It just felt like the kind of movie that I was waiting to see. I had not seen a Toronto movie like this before, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, that was what I was driven to make.
Could not agree more. And total side note, since we were talking about Good Will Hunting, are you excited for Gus Van Sant's new movie at TIFF this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very excited to not have a movie at TIFF this year because I can actually focus in on the movies themselves and watch the movies. And yeah, there's so many great films. There's so many great
Oh
Canadian
yeah.
films that have already been
I'm
announced.
so excited.
So it'll be a really, really great TIFF. But yeah, Gus Van Sant's one of the greats. So
Yeah, for sure. It's so great to see him back. And just one more question before I go. I love asking this to filmmakers and actors whenever they're involved in something. What's the perfect double feature movie for Shook? What's the best companion piece you would watch with this?
Oh, with it?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. You know what? Maybe something that's sort of like in a similar vein, but hmm. I would go with the farewell. I would go with the farewell because
That's an
it's
excellent
different. It
choice.
doesn't have the romance element, but the family dynamics and the way, you know, the way that film deals with sort of like difficult family things that we're not supposed to talk about as immigrant kids, right? Like that's the bravery that that takes was really inspirational to me. So I would say watch those two back to back because they're very different films tonally and visually, but I think you'll see two filmmakers kind of dealing with similar things as they kind of like grow as artists. I'm not saying Shook is on that level. I'm not pretending that I'm on that level, but it's a great movie. So yeah.
No, for sure. That's an excellent choice. And since family is the heart of both of those movies, I really do like that answer. Look, they're giving me the wrap. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I love this movie. I was supposed to do the junket for this at TIFF last year,
Oh,
but I got
really?
cut out. So I'm really happy I could finally speak to you about this. I've been waiting a year to talk about it, and I'm so excited for people to see it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, tell your friends and family to go that opening weekend.
Oh, I'm telling everyone, seriously, congrats on this movie. And I hope to see you around TIFF now that you're going to have time to lock in.
Thank you. Yeah, if you see me, hit me up.
Thank you. Congrats on being a father again as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye.